I was with Prabhupada from the Mangalarti through the evening. Then after the evening darshans, I would go back and just to the bank of Jamuna, and I would be with my friends, local inhabitants of Vrindavan, and they were very much talking about the glories of Srila Prabhupada. It was the first time Vrindavan had ever seen anything like this in history. Krishna appeared 5,000 years ago in Vrindavan, performed his transcendental pastimes. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came 500 years ago. By his order, the Goswamis began to excavate and establish the places of Vrindavan. And through the years, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and all these great acharyas performed their pastimes of worship there. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur brought many thousands of people on his Braj Mandala Parikrama. But never before in the history of Braj Bhumi did people from all over the world, from outside of India, come in a spirit of devotion to worship Sri Sri Radha and Krishna.
This was a very bizarre experience. It's like the people were just like mobbing. It got to be this almost like a frenzy, like a hysteria. You know, it's like they were so excited to have the devotees there. And as we're going down the street, we're knocking over like vegetable stalls and it was like. And so Prabhupada appeared to be feeling ill, like we couldn't tell if he was sleeping or if he was fainting. And then we ended up in this some kind of sports stadium or something. Remember that? And Prabhupada was in this little room, and we closed the gates, like these big wooden doors, and then the people just wanted to see Prabhupada, but Prabhupada wasn't well. And so the devotees got him in this room and just kind of closed the room and wouldn't let the people come in, and they just got more and more upset, and they were kind of like banging on these gates trying to get in, and I was getting like scared. Like, were they going to break down the doors and like stampede us and what they were going to do? Because they were getting a little angry too. And it was like that. People just like thronged Prabhupada like some rock star or something, They wanted to rip him apart, get a piece of him. And so I don't think Prabhupada ever did speak. I don't even remember how we got Prabhupada out of it. But I do remember that he sent groups of devotees out to have contact with the people. I remember myself and Narayan being sent out as a team, and we went to this little temple, and I think Narayan gave a little talk, and we had a little kirtan, and the people were satisfied. They wanted to see us too, the white sadhus. It was just so exciting for them to see these white sadhus. See, look at Prabhupada. He looks, because sometimes he was like sitting on this thing, like with his eyes closed and his head nodding, like we didn't know if he'd like had a stroke or if he'd fainted from the heat or if he was sleeping. It was just really strange.
This was one of the most intimate and relaxing highlights. Prabhupada stayed in Jaipur palace grounds as a guest of the Queen, Gayatri Devi. But she was so thankful to have Prabhupada there. The devotees coming in and out of the Govindaji's temple would parade by Prabhupada's bungalow throughout the day. And there were so many wonderful devotees in Jaipur. Every one of Prabhupada's lectures, morning and night, were packed with thousands of people. Devotees of the Govindaji temple there. And he was appreciated in Jaipur in a way that he had not been appreciated in other cities in India. Almost every citizen came to these speaking engagements. They were already full-fledged Vaishnava devotees. He was very happy in Jaipur.
At that time, Prabhupada lived in a grass hut, there was no other place to live in it. I remember Prabhupada one time was sitting in the grass hut, and he just said, this grass hut is an abode of goodness. And this is all you need for spiritual life, live in a grass hut, and live by the side of the holy river, chant Hare Krishna. But if you do this, people won't come here. So we have to build the big buildings with concrete and steel and bricks. Those buildings are in the mode of passion. But for preaching, we can build those buildings. But for our own selves, this should be enough.
Before the festival, I had approached Srila Prabhupada on the balcony in Calcutta and said, Srila Prabhupada, I've been trying to understand what you want of us, what your desire is. I could see that Srila Prabhupada was really listening and taking every word into his heart. And then I said, 2 things seem to please you the most. Distributing your books and building the big temple in Mayapur. And Srila Prabhupada's eyes opened wide, his face lit up, he smiled, and he glanced at me and he said, yes, you have understood. And then he said, if you build this temple in Mayapur, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur will personally come and take you all back to Godhead.
Bhavananda Prabhu said, Srila Prabhupada, we're sitting in the middle of these rice fields. I'm from New York. He says, Srabi, the architect, is from Amsterdam. You know, we're all from cities. We're all from big cities. And we're sitting in the middle of these rice fields, and you're asking us to build a big temple in the city. How we can do this, Prabhupada? And he said, Prabhupada, where will all the money come from? And Prabhupada said, Bhavananda is always thinking, where will money come from? He said, actually, here you have Radha Madhava. He said, Madhava means the husband of the goddess of fortune. Simply serve Madhava nicely, and everything will come. You don't have to worry about money. Well, Prabhupada, we don't know where to start even. They had the design for the Lotus building, and where to put it. We're really bewildered, standing in the middle of rice fields. And Prabhupada, he didn't procrastinate, as we say. So Prabhupada said, come with me. We had 3 acres of land at that time, 1 strip of land from the road. So Prabhupada, he put a clod of earth down, then he just paced so far down, then he put another clod of earth, then he just turned, and he paced the other way, put another clod of earth, paced up the other end. So he put 4 clods of earth, and he said, build it here. That was it.
This is Prabhupada establishing the Adventist Station in 1972. He invited all of his God brothers to come. And many God brothers had already left, so there were disciples of God brothers, his spiritual nephews. He invited them all to come. And then he spoke to them that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur wanted us to all work together. So why don't we all combine and work together? Now I have temples around the world, and I can give you some devotees from foreign countries to help the preaching. We should all work together. But they didn't accept. They didn't really say anything.
He had told us to dig a pit, and we dug a pit about 15 feet deep and probably around 6 to 8 feet wide with a bamboo ladder going down inside. He said he was going to set the cornerstone. We had no idea what setting a cornerstone was going to be like. But apparently his friend and godbrother Puri Maharaj had come bringing a little solid 24-karat gold Anantasesha. It was about 1.5 inches high. So Prabhupada was going down in the pit, and Ashok Amrita was holding the ladder. And then somebody came, Prabhupada wants you. What? He wants you to go down in the pit. Why he wants you to go down in the pit? And I saw Prabhupada is walking down the ladder, and I came over, and I went down in the pit with Srila Prabhupada. And to me it was symbolic enough, a ladder, I'm in a pit with a ladder, and Prabhupada, what more do I want? We gather an accumulation of bricks, and then a bucket comes down with mortar and a trowel. So I didn't know what to do. And Prabhupada said, just gestured at us. We are building a temple here. He said like that. So I pick up a brick and I butter it with mortar and I set it down. And then I put another one. And I start to set it just very nicely like a chimney or something of that sort. Prabhupada said, no, not like that. And I said, how? He said, every which way. When he said every which way, he meant randomly. And then I started building, and I built this thing, and there was a gap in the middle, and the Srila Prabhupada came and placed the Ananta Sesha and said, put more. After I'd pretty well hidden the deity with bricks, he told me to go up, and the others came down.
So if you went down, you see that ladder, bamboo tied together with pieces of string. He goes down, and he comes up, and everybody's kind of, his all godbrothers are there. We're all there. And he said, Yasi's Brahmananda, Gargamuni, Devananda, Tamal Krishna's there. And so everybody kind of were thinking, who's going to speak? Who's going to speak? I remember I was also thinking that way. And then he says, Malvaji, you speak. And I mean, everybody was floored. I was floored. So what can I say? I'm just looking around. Here's all these learned Vaishnavas, certainly more learned than I'd ever be. I just stood up and spoke about Srila Prabhupada. I remember I was crying a little bit. And then afterwards, I remember Gargamuni came up to me and he said, that was very nice. And I always appreciated that. I was just reflecting on Prabhupada's expertness in putting us forward and in utilizing us for the benefit of his mission. And knowing each one of our particular ability and our limitations, and even using our limitations to the best advantage. Because in this situation, I was not, as I mentioned, I was not a pundit. I don't know Sanskrit verses. I wasn't fully learned in the Bhagavatam, but I had no hesitation about speaking on the glories of Srila Prabhupada. And it was actually the right thing to do at that time.
While we were at Mayapur, one young man named Bob Cohen came to our camp. And we were really surprised because we didn't get visitors just coming like that. And Bob Cohen was very intelligent and sober. He was a Peace Corps worker in India. So he came to meet Srila Prabhupada. He had attended our Pandal program at Deshapriya Park in South Calcutta. And he began to ask Srila Prabhupada very intelligent questions. And Srila Prabhupada gave very elaborate answers. And it became a regular routine that Bob would come and ask questions to Srila Prabhupada. And knowing that there was going to be an important discussion, I would ask Srila Prabhupada, should I call the others? And he would say yes.
My experiences with Prabhupada, of course, occurred in the Bhajan Kutir, where devotees wanted to know if I had any questions, which I certainly did. So I got to sit in there, I think, for several hours a day over probably a 4-day period, and discuss with Prabhupada and my philosophical issues. I didn't really know a whole lot about what was going on in terms of parampara and how things work. I knew a little, but I just appreciated the qualities of Prabhupada. He made me feel very comfortable. His humor was very disarming. And Prabhupada was on a platform, so I was on the floor. So I'd always be looking at Prabhupada's feet, and somehow that gave me some blessing. One of the most dramatic moments for me personally is when I realized it's time for me to leave Mayapur. Because the night before, on Gaur Purnima night, Jambuna had come to me with tears in her eyes. And I remember the moon reflecting in her eyes, and she had tears and said, "You are so fortunate. Prabhupada spending so much time with you." She said it with such conviction that I was completely overwhelmed. And I realized that I might have to surrender. So I went behind the temple, behind the pandal, and just collapsed in the rice paddies and started crying. I said, I can't give everything up. And so the next morning, Prabhupada called for me again, asked if I had more questions. I said, thank you very much for what you've done, but I have to leave now. I have to get back to my teaching, which the Peace Corps had no idea where I was or what I did, so I could go back or not go back. And Prabhupada said, don't talk L-E-A-V-E. He spelled it out. Talk L-I-V-E. Don't talk leave, talk live. So I said to Prabhupada, so you want me to stay longer? He goes, yes. I said, well, if you tell me to, I will. And then he said to me, good boy, the same way you would say it to your pet. So at that time, in my heart, I felt I had become Prabhupada's pet, not realizing that I, in essence, had accepted him as my guru, though, when I think back at it. After that time, I was sold out to Prabhupada. A minor incident, but for me it was very major. And Prabhupada timed it just perfectly well to capture me.
One of Srila Prabhupada's most enduring projects was the Juhu land and Juhu development in what was then a remote suburb of Bombay. It was open marshland and swamps and coconut groves. Very few people there in those days. So it was difficult for the devotees, some of the devotees, to understand why Prabhupada wanted this land so much. Most devotees are familiar with all of the squabbles that went on for this land over such a long period, many years, and the fights, litigation that was waged over this land. But Prabhupada was so insistent that we acquire this land. He was ultimately triumphant.
What we were thinking was, mostly at that time they were hippies, so they are being converted into good people, so we should help them whatever way we can. They are not rich or anything, but whatever little in the house is there, we should give. They used to come for cold water because March, April, it was so hot. They are not used to this climate. And then we used to give limbu water, and whatever is available in the house, we used to give them. Then once he was walking in the garden, Prabhupada. So some new devotees had come in the morning. So he shows our house and tells, this is Hare Krishna Annex. You all have left your mothers and come. Here is a mother for you. And anything you want to know, you can ask her, and that is the house. And he pointed to our house. Afterwards, we asked the devotees what he was telling. They said, this is Hare Krishna Annex.
My name is Smriti Warrior, and I lived in Hare Krishna Land, B building on the ground floor. And my parents were Mr. and Mrs. Warrior that helped a lot with, with the temple and the devotees and did a lot of seva. And basically grew up on Hare Krishna Land. I was there before the devotees came, so when they first came, I was 6, 7 years old. And of course, we'd never seen foreigners so much before, so when they would come, we would stare at them. They were like celebrities. Just sit there, every move they made, we were watching them. Of course, at that time, we used to tease and chant. We'd chant, but we'd teasingly chant Hare Krishna or the Haribol. As time went on, we started to like them, and they would be so nice to us. So we'd always go up and anything they wanted, we'd run and get it for them. Or they were living on the rooftop, they would bathe up there. And I remember we used to see these soapy white lathered heads, Gargamuni, Brahmanan, Madhuvisa, This must be in Acharya's garden that he's getting massage. He came out of there and went right into the house. Later on, they started a Gurukul, which we attended. That was the only Gurukul we really enjoyed going to, and the 3 of them did it. It was so much fun. We used to do all kinds of things, little projects, learning shlokas, chanting, putting on dances when Prabhupada came.
Before even having the title to the land, so he had a cornerstone laying ceremony. Prabhupada was the expert in everything. He was the supreme strategist. He said that if we install deities on the property, no one will take them down. This is not done in India. This would give us further right to the land. So he conducted this cornerstone ceremony.
later, when the police did try to close down the deities, there was a public outcry which forced the situation toward Prabhupada's favor. But it was another year and a half from this cornerstone laying ceremony before Prabhupada actually acquired the deed to the land. And this was another maneuver Srila Prabhupada thought was important to establish our right to the land by installing deities. Having a very elaborate cornerstone laying ceremony. Prabhupada was teaching us all the time how to do business, how to manage our affairs. We were so innocent. We had no knowledge or experience in these kind of affairs. Buying land, getting titles, and what to speak of in India where things are 10 times more difficult than the West.
I came after shaving my head, and then when I was asked by Ramananda to go and see Srila Prabhupada, and when I walked in, he said, "Oh, now you look very nice." First he asked me where I was from. I said, "I'm from Holland." And then he asked me, "What is the use of decorating dead bodies?" And then I said, "No use." And he said, "Exactly." I said, "Don't waste your life in decorating dead bodies." I was an artist. I was a designer. I would make things, beautiful things. I was definitely a decorator. So I understood the end. So he would say, "Don't waste your time on making beautiful things for the wrong purpose." And then sort of immediately he hinted that Krishna has sent you here to design his temples. That's what the next thing he said. And tomorrow we have a ceremony here. It's called initiation ceremony, and then you'll be initiated. And then he asked the secretary, he said, "Give him some paper and some pencils so he can start designing. And you can sit over there next to the secretary." So then he called Shamsundar and he asked him to give me the photos of the Radha Gopinath here. So I got 20, 30 different photos, different shots that they had taken, and that is the temple he liked. He wanted that type of temple to be built in Bombay. I knew enough about the movement that was a great honor, and I could hear the reactions around me that people went like, "Krishna, Krishna." They were making certain sounds that was like, this is quite unusual. And I was also told later on that they had no record that Prabhupada ever did that before. The guy walking in and give him initiation the next day. So I could feel, yes, there was something that gave me the energy, there was something that allowed me to do this that normally I probably wouldn't be able to do. That I could feel, what does it mean to be empowered? And when Prabhupada tells you, you are going to do this, and then it actually happens, then you believe for the rest of your life that it exists.
In the same house, Prabhupada gave me a conch, left-handed conch, and he said, Kartikeya has been such a great host to us and is well-wisher and so generous to us, and he's given me this conch which is supposed to bring a lot of wealth, and I want to give it to you. So he gave me the conch, and he said, I never expected to be able to do all this. I thought maybe we could just have some chanting, we could have a few devotees, but I never, and he referred to all the temple, all that. Because Prabhupada, when he was saying that, I never expected it, he was kind of laughing at himself. He was saying, hey, I went after a little fish and I caught such a huge fish, I don't know what happened, kind of thing. So I said, do you remember, Prabhupada, the story of Mullah Nasruddin, where Mullah Nasruddin is sitting by a lake and putting some yogurt in the lake, and people
say, what are you doing? He says, I am trying to see if the yogurt, the whole lake will catch to become yogurt. And say, how could that be possible? He said, yes, it's not possible, but what if? And we both laughed and laughed. What if? What if? I said, yours was the same thing, you just what if, and it caught on, and he says, yeah, we just laughed around that, and it was a very joyous time.
The setting of the cornerstone of a temple is an extremely important thing. What happens is when this pit is established, it is actually protected by Anantasesha, which means that it's very well protected indeed. And of course, the manner in which the ceremony takes place also determines the outcome of the power of protection that the pit has. Now, in the case of this particular cornerstone, Prabhupada later on confided, he said, when we first purchased this land from Mr. Nair, I did not see how we could keep this land. He said, but I thought, if I bring Krishna here, and I ask Krishna to sit tight, if he sits tight, if he stays, then I knew that it is possible to keep this land. But we built the temple is there today to prove what can be done. By the order of the pure devotee of the Lord, on his order this temple was built by Krishna's protection. So even Prabhupada did not believe it was possible, yet Krishna made it possible. So somehow this cornerstone laying was very significant in that regard, because this is certainly part and parcel of Prabhupada asking Krishna to sit tight. And we know historically that when the police came to drag people away, the devotee girl, Maiti Healy, was holding onto the pole, and they were pulling on her legs, and they tried to come with Paxi Assembly torches to cut down the temple. Somehow they were cutting, but they could not finally get the deity away. So Krishna sat tight. But Prabhupada had that power, evocative power, to bring Krishna to a place, ask him to sit tight, and through the power of this pit of the cornerstone, made it stick for all time.
I was a brahmachari, I was not even initiated at that time, and there was a class going on, and he asked this question in the class. He said, how do you know that Krishna is God? Why do you believe me? So some devotee said, because it says in the Bhagavad Gita, all that, so quoting some verses from the Bhagavad Gita, or saying that because Prabhupada, no, but I may be lying also. I may be lying. How do you know that that Krishna is Krishna? So someone quoted from the Bhagavad Gita some verse. He said, yeah, but whether you believe the Bhagavad Gita or not believe Bhagavad Gita, translation or interpretation may be wrong. How do you know that Krishna is Krishna? So actually I was very new devotee at that time. So all the senior devotees were giving their explanation, and Prabhupada kept saying, no, this is not a good answer, this is not a good answer, that's not enough. And then finally there was a little quietness. I was even afraid to say what I felt like saying. So very meekly I kind of put my hand up, and Prabhupada said, yes. And I said, Prabhupada, I believe it is Krishna because I can feel Krishna. When I say Krishna, I can feel him, I can feel it. That's why I believe in it. And then his eyes grew up like that. Yes, that is it. You can feel Krishna's presence. That's why you believe in Krishna. And he looked at me with so much happiness, like, that, yes, your answer is right.
Whenever he was in Bombay, every morning I would take his breakfast for him. He liked lattes. Whenever he came into town, he'd send a servant to tell Mrs. Warrior that he was here, and the next morning he'd leave the lattes had to be here. And I used to take it in, and I used to wait around, waiting for Prabhupada to give me a sweet back in return. Sometimes he would tease me and give me a piece of Italy back, or a piece of latte, and I'd say, no, I want the sweet on your plate. And I would wait there until he gave it to me. Times he would tease me so much that he would eat all his prasadam, and I'd still be waiting for my sweet. I'd never leave without it. And then he'd go to put the last one in his mouth, and he would just hand it to me and let me go. Oh, he would laugh. He knew he was teasing me with it, especially when you'd pick up the Italy and he'd give it to me. There was a amused look in his eye, like, are you going to take it? I was stubborn. I wanted that sweet. That was it. I'd go in the evening to the class just to get the sweet, the para, the burfi that they were giving out. Sometimes he would be kind enough to tell Vishal, give her sweet so she can go and play, or sometimes I would have to sit through the whole class and then I would get my sweet. I remember there were times when servants weren't around, and I would get to pick up his shoes and help him slip his feet into it. Every evening my mother would make a garland for the lecture. And I was thinking about it when I was that little. I used to feel embarrassed because all these boys would come with these beautiful, thick, nice garlands. You know, they'd buy the flowers and make these beautiful garlands, and I got this thin little thing that my mom had made of the champa flowers of the moger from the garden. And when I thought about it, it was actually true. Prabhupada would take the big heavy ones off. He would leave the thin ones on, and he'd be smelling them. So actually, he did like that offering. In some of the pictures you see of Bombay, you see he's got that champa garland around his neck. He hasn't taken that one off.
The morning walks were very informal. It's like pretty much whoever wanted to go could go, and a lot of times the devotees were so sick, most of them were under their mosquito nets when Prabhupada took his morning walk. And so I remember one morning Prabhupada was just taking off for his walk, and so Brahmananda, Narnarayan, myself, and Srimati trailed along after him. We came to the gates, those big wooden gates at the front of the property. They were closed, and this was after Mangal Arti. Prabhupada became livid. He was so angry. He said, why are these gates closed? I told you these gates must be kept open for Mangal Arti so the villagers can come. He said, do you think this Mangal Arti is just for you? No, it's for everyone. You think this Krishna consciousness is just for you? And he was very angry that we were being so self-centered and not thinking about the welfare of the neighboring people.
I remember that in Melbourne he gave me second initiation, and I'd been initiated in 1971 by mail in Hong Kong. So I received one letter and he said, your initiated name is Jagajanani Devidasi. And then very shortly after that we received another letter in Hong Kong saying that the name has been changed to Jagaturini because there was already somebody of the name Jagajanani. So I had never received any a fire sacrifice for first initiation. So I sat in on the fire sacrifice in Melbourne, and then he gave me second initiation upstairs in his room. Oh, then we all went out to collect Guru Dakshin, which was something new. It was a bit of a novelty. We weren't familiar with that concept then. And I remember going down one street nearby and going shop to shop. And one of the shops that I went into was a butcher's shop. And that man gave more than anyone else. So when I came back, I commented on that to Srila Prabhupada, and I said, you know, I'd gone into this butcher's shop. It's a kind of a childish thing to say. And so he said, oh, that's very good. And, you know, he's very kindly and fatherly. And at the end of that visit to Melbourne, I brought my parents to see Srila Prabhupada. And my mother and father came in, and my mother was very suspicious. She was uncomfortable. But my father was gracious, and so he sat near to Srila Prabhupada, and my mother hovered by the door, and then they gave her a seat and she sat down. And Srila Prabhupada had this blue-coloured type of a couch, French style, shavings, lounge or something like that. And he was sitting on that, and he looked so elegant, so genteel. And they both sat down, and then the first thing Srila Prabhupada did was he looked at my father, who was respectful, and he said, your daughter will deliver you. And my father was a little embarrassed. I think he couldn't really understand Srila Prabhupada's accent. So he started sort of laughing nervously. He said, oh yes, we always thought you'd do something like that. And then Srila Prabhupada looked at him quite earnestly and said, don't think that she's given up your service. He said, because of her, so many generations forward and backward in your family will be delivered because of her. And he went on to explain to him that he had gone so many places in the world, and wherever he went, people thanked him for what he had done for their children, and he'd saved them from so many vices and so forth. And my father was very gentle, and so he was respectful. And afterwards, Srila Prabhupada turned to me and said, "Your father is a gentleman." And then my mother, who was also very pious in that sense, but she was nervous. At the very end of that darshan, Srila Prabhupada took this carnation garment, solid, full of carnations, and he took it very gracefully from his neck, and then he asked his servant, "Give this to her." And so they handed her this garment, and she was so taken aback. It was so charming. She didn't know what to say, and she took that garment home and put it on a plate of water and kept it on like a vase, some way. Kept it and preserved it as long as she could in appreciation for that visit with him.
This is the lecture Srila Prabhupada is giving at the town hall in Melbourne, Australia. In 1972, the devotees had gone to Melbourne after they had established the temple in Sydney, and they have become quite popular in Melbourne because of the elaborate street sankirtan that was performed every day by the devotees in downtown Melbourne. Chiru and Bhai Bobby were there, and Upananda was there, and there was a whole crew of, we called them the ecstasy crew. The ecstasy crew were people that didn't get initiated, but they religiously showed up every day for Sankirtan in downtown Melbourne. So right in the same street where the Melbourne Town Hall was located, the devotees were chanting up and down every day. So when Prabhupada arrived and they had the Prabhupada's lecture at Melbourne Town Hall, it was quite widely publicized, and many of the people that had been seeing us on the street every day were there. And there was some hippie gurus that came to see Srila Prabhupada, some famous hippie gurus in Melbourne, and everyone thought that this one hippie guru who would stand on a soapbox every day in downtown Melbourne and various places and preach his own hedonistic philosophy, and he was very quick-witted, so everyone thought that he would come and be able to challenge Srila Prabhupada. So many of his followers came that night also, but Srila Prabhupada quickly philosophically defeated him and humbled him, and he came forward at the end of the lecture and chanted and danced with all the disciples of Srila Prabhupada. And Prabhupada was very adept at defeating the impersonalists and the hedonists. And this Melbourne Town Hall lecture was quite a grand success for the devotees. It was a large turnout. There was over 2,000 people that came to that, and so it was quite amazing.
For this universe is called Chaturdash Bhuvan. There is 14 planet systems. This is called Bhulok. Above this, there is Bhuvodlok. Above that, there is Janalok. Above that, there is Mahalok. Above that, there is Sattolok. Above that, there is Dhammalok, the highest planet system. Similarly, down also, we have got Tol, Atol, Talatal, Nital, Patal, Rasatal. This information we get from Vedic literature. 14 words. Each and every universe is consisting of these 14 planetary systems. And there are innumerable universes. So that we also get information from Brahma Samhita. Just Prabha, Prabhavatu, Jagadanda Koti. Jagadanda Koti. Jagadanda means this universe. The big, pollen, just like unknown, everything, every planet is just like this Brahmanda, this universe is also like So there are many millions of Jagadanda, and in each and every Jagadanda, Kotishu Vasudhadi Vibhuti Bhinnam, there are innumerable planets of. So these are the information we get from the Vedic literature. If you like, you can accept. If you don't like, then reject. That is up to you.
I was in a Vancouver temple and I heard that Srila Prabhupada was coming to LA, and I never seen Prabhupada before, so I got very excited and I asked Bahudak, which was the temple president, that I wanted to go meet Prabhupada, and he said, if you want to please Prabhupada, you stay here. So I said, okay, Prabhu. And as soon as he left, I ran upstairs to the Brahmachari ashram. I didn't even take any clothes, I just grabbed my coat and I ran out the back door. And I didn't have any money and I was in Canada. And so I started hitchhiking, went across the border, got across almost to the end of Washington State the first night. And Prabhupada is arriving the next day around 4 o'clock in LA. So I think it's about 1,000 miles away from LA. As soon as the sun came up, I started hitchhiking. And the first car that came over was a brand new Corvette. And this guy was an Air Force pilot. And he said, where are you going? And I go, I'm going to LA. I said, jump in. And amazingly enough, he was driving about 120 miles an hour. It was great. It was fun. To make a long story short, he drove me 2 blocks from the temple from LA. And I got there about 20 minutes before Prabhupada came in. And I ran upstairs, took a shower, put on the dhoti, put on tilak, ran outside into the alleyway. And flowers were showering from the top of the building. And the Prabhupada's car pulled up and the door got open and Prabhupada came out. It was the first time I saw him and his smile was great. And the devotees were jumping up and down and it was like being in the spiritual world.
I think I was the first devotee widow, the first widow in the movement. And somebody told me that in India you could tell a person's status by how they're dressed. And it was important what you're wearing. And so it would please Srila Prabhupada if I put on all white. So we went to Culver Center and bought tons of white fabric and began wearing white. But I wasn't sure if that was correct. If we were new at everything. Nobody knew much about Vedic culture. So I wanted to go before Prabhupada, have him see me in white, and then I felt like I would be able to tell by his reaction. Maybe he would say something or give me a nod or something, make a comment. So I was determined that Prabhupada would see me wearing the white sari. Every time Prabhupada would come to LAX airport, as soon as he walked through the terminal, if you said your obeisances, you really said the full prayer, by the time you stood up, you didn't even get a glimpse of him, especially if you were in a female body, because all the guys would stand in front of you, and you didn't get to see Srila Prabhupada. So I formulated a plan, and I didn't tell anyone. It was my big dream, my big secret, that the next time he was coming to LAX, I would wait at the bottom of the escalator with my daughter, and all the way down the escalator, he might only see me, and he might say something. So that's what I did. I dreamt about it. I planned it. I couldn't wait. Sure enough, I heard he's coming to Los Angeles again. So I did exactly that. Dressed up my daughter. We waited at the bottom of the escalator. It was difficult because the big tumult was upstairs, the big kirtan, but I stood there. And just as it went in my dreams, he came down the escalator, and there was me and Nimai, and he stopped at the bottom of the escalator. And he leaned forward. He took the little bouquet of flowers that we made for him. He looked at me. He saw the white sari, and I got a definite nod of approval. Without a shadow of a doubt, I got the nod of approval. Very pleased nod. And that one nod, the power of Prabhupada's nod, kept me in white for 18 and a half years because of that nod. Meanwhile, what was humorous is the escalator kept going, and so all the sannyasis that were right behind him were getting squished like an accordion.
We were always told that Srila Prabhupada's favorite flower was the yellow rose. So I brought one to the airport to give to him. So he steps off of the mover and comes to the firm ground, and I'm standing there right in front of him. And he looks at me right in the eyes, and I hand him the rose. He takes the rose, and gently nods his head and walks on. And for that one moment also, the kirtan, all the devotees and chanting, it just seemed to just be a moment of silence that I got to share with Srila Prabhupada. And just one moment in time that Srila Prabhupada accepting a gift from me lasts a lifetime.
Because all the devotees were coming back from the airport. And I remember meeting Prabhupada's feet before meeting Prabhupada. I just remember him walking by as he was coming into the temple room and just seeing his feet walking. And I just remember that there was so much light around his feet. And I could kind of see Prabhupada as, a great, huge being, because I was looking up from the floor at him. And that's why kind of etched in my mind that wonderful memory of just seeing his effulgent feet. And then, kind of working my way up from the feet up to his